Do you ever despair and just wonder why no one wants to pay for your coaching package? You think, why is it so hard to get clients? Or why don't clients want to pay me? Why isn't anyone interested? And there's like insert question mark, exclamation point, exclamation point. It's like, why? And it's this frustration. And I know because I've been through it with my clients, I've been through it myself. And so if you're feeling that, then you are in the right place. That is why today we're going to be talking about that on Unforgettable Podcast, episode 73. And I'm back today with Cher, my right-hand lady, and she's going to be interviewing me today. This is part of that experiment that we talked about last episode, where we're playing around with both doing video and also like, how can I produce content in a way that's like kind of exciting for me, engaging, and keeps me lit up about my business? So I'm going to pass it over to Cher.
Okay. Coaching packages and people not paying for them. This is a big problem. And I kind of want to bring it back just to like the very basics of, Adria, why do you think people aren't paying for other coaches' packages? What is the main problem? What are they running into?
Okay, so I want to say, there's like different things we can talk about, but I feel like if we're talking about the main problem that I see, it's really how they talk about, surprise, surprise on this podcast, it's how they talk about their package, how they position it. It really comes back to that. It's like, how do you show that this package is valuable and it's worth someone paying for? Because you got to think about it from their perspective. Like, they need to feel good about the investment they're making because they're making an investment in you, right? They're not paying for something. They're making an investment. So they need to have a good sense and a good feel of what they're going to get on the other end. And they need to feel good about that. And when I say that, I don't mean that they need to know that they're going to go through step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. No. That's your process, and that's not so important. That's not the reason that people aren't paying for your coaching package. The reason is or the top thing that comes up with this is really the how are you positioning it? How are you talking about it? How are you selling it with the words and using the words that really connect to them? And I know we're going to talk a lot more about that during this episode.
So when you see coaches attempting to sell their packages, like what mistakes are they running into over and over again? Are there any that come to mind right away? Mm-hmm. Like let's say there's a life coach who's like, I help millennials get unstuck and be happier and more fulfilled in their lives. And I have this 6-month coaching package for $2,000 and no one's buying it. What's my issue?
Okay, so number one, you need to go back to the last episode on niche and get super clear on what the problem is you solve for people and get super specific with that niche. That's like the foundation that makes it a lot easier to create a coaching package that's going to sell. So once you have that foundation, so say you decided, okay, so I am a life coach. I work with millennials and I help them to find the right career path for them because they feel like they could do so many different things, but they want to choose something that really uses their skills, lights them up, and they need to get on the right. They need to take their first right step and move forward in that direction. That might be the unstuck they need, right? So say you get to that place in terms of niche and you've laid that foundation, and then what I see here is that well, honestly, I feel like I just did the whole job right then. It's suddenly when you have that, then, and you talk about it that way, you talk about the overall problem you solve that way, then suddenly it becomes more necessary. So say I'm a millennial and I'm floundering. I don't even know what direction to go. Am I ever going to find a career? I'm losing years now. I'm in my 20s, but I won't be in my 20s forever. I want to find the right path and make these years matter. This, I lose sleep over this. And so you're already connecting with that. So so just by taking that first step and like getting specific with your niche and tying it to a problem you solve, you're already starting to make it more valuable, right? And so if you don't have that specificity in the niche, and you aren't talking about it in terms of the problem you solve, if you're doing what you were saying before and you say like, I work with millennials and I help them get unstuck and I don't remember what you said, like have a happy, healthy life or like whatever, like one of those
whatever people say.
If you're saying that, then there's already not really an urgent reason they should hire you, you know? Like you need to have a reason for them to drop money and make that investment because they know they're getting something out of it. You know, and like even if you just are a blanket life coach and you just want to help people have happier lives, like that your work is great, right? You're talented, you're going to get them where they need to be, but they need to know it too. And it's like if someone has a problem that they're looking for a solution to, they want to be sold. Like they want you to say the right things that connect to what they want because they want to solve the problem. So if you're saying those right things, then it's going to be much easier to sell them because they're already looking for that. They're like wishing someone had the solution. And so it's almost like it's not being icky or salesy at all. It's almost like in service to them. And so I think in this case, so say you're that life coach who works with millennials and you have your $2,000, I think it was $2,000. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
In this case,
yeah.
it's $2,000 for 6 months. So say you have that package and it's really not selling. Like, I think the first thing is what I was talking about before with niche. And then I would say it is like what I started touching on before was a lot of times we talk about the process, we're like, okay, what I'm going to do with you is 1, 2, 3, 4. Like the process you take them through to get to where you're going. A lot of times we talk about that, and I call this your tools. So as a life coach, maybe you have like the actual coaching sessions, but maybe you also do Reiki, or maybe you do some EFT, some tapping. Maybe you work on, like one of my past clients, Christy Daniels, who we did a podcast episode with, like she has a tool that's like an energy matrix. And so she takes her clients through, and I think it was an opt-in bonus. It may not be anymore. I think it's been a couple of years. So she's pivoted and honed and everything. But she, at the time, she had an opt-in bonus, which was an energy matrix. And it was essentially like this tool that clients would fill in like what things drained them and what things recharged them. And they would get a sense of that. And so they would start to like see where what was an output, what was an input, and that would help them move. So that's a tool, right? Like if you're a yoga teacher, that's your tool. If you're, if you help rewrite LinkedIn profiles, that's your tool. If you create meal plans, if you do fitness classes, like all these things are part of your toolkit. And what you really do is that problem that you're solving for people. So if you can talk about your work in that way, you're like, okay, painting the picture of like, so we have this 2-month package and you know something about your person before you're offering it to them. If you need a nice, like easy outline for the steps to go through in a discovery call that feels like really not salesy, but still converts, I have an episode on that. I'll put that link in the show notes as well. But so you say you're going through this whole conversation and you get to the end when you're offering your package, you already know some things about that person. You already know what they're struggling with. You already know what they want. And so now your package, you get to personalize how you're talking about it to that person. So say you have that 6-month coaching package, then you get to say like, all right, so Jenny, we've been talking this whole time and I know that you're struggling with, like, you just want to know like what step to take moving forward, and like what career direction to go into so you can start building that foundation so you're not like having to retire when you're 70 and you're starting to think about this. You want to like go in some direction, but you don't want to feel like caged in, right? So we have a 6-month program, and what I could see us doing together over that time frame would be like really helping you get the clarity on what direction you need to go in, and like, and set the foundation, like start like finding the thing that's in alignment. Like we would do that together. And then we would actually work on you taking the steps to move in that direction. And like, so you get to kind of, I'm like knocking things over. You get to kind of like paint the picture of what it would look like in terms of what they really care about. Not in terms of like the process, right? But in terms of the things they care about, which is what they're experiencing, the problem, the struggle they're in, and where they want to go with it. And then those are the types of things that make your coaching package more valuable, is when you include those pieces. And I have some more examples too that I can share, but I share. But I want to pass it over to you because I think you might have like a follow-up to that.
Well, I'm just thinking about how many people think they know what the problem is, but are actually missing the mark. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, okay, we think that maybe they think that they don't have enough time to move forward on whatever their goal is. Maybe it's to write a book. Maybe you're like a book writing coach. How do we know what the real issues are?
So this is a really good question because it doesn't actually really matter. Because you as a coach are really good at what you do, which means that once you start working with them, you'll unearth whatever it is they need to move through or accomplish or like whatever you need to help them with, you're going to unearth that. But when we're deciding the problem to start with, this is like the door that they walk through. You're trying to connect to what they're thinking. So what they think the problem is, because once you get them in the door, you can help them with like probably 10 other things as well in your process, because that's just what happens, right? Like I'm a business coach, but I'm kind of a life coach too, because that's just, everything's intertwined and it's just what comes up, right? So you don't really need to know, like the most important thing to know is what they think the problem is, because that's how you connect to what they're already thinking.
Right. So you don't have to know all the problems. You have to have just a doorway for them to walk through, is what you're saying.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
So how do you choose the doorway? How do you choose which door you run with?
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good question. And so I would say, we talked a lot about this in the past episode. So if you really want to dive in deeper, go to the last episode, which is titled something like, "Is My Niche Profitable?" It's all around niching. But I will just say, choosing the doorway is choosing something that feels like what you want to talk about. That's something maybe you've solved for yourself or you've solved for other people, or that you're super passionate about. And then probably not taking it too seriously, honestly, because what happens is that once you choose something and you start heading in that direction, then you allow your brand and your messaging and your niche and all this stuff to start to evolve. Because it's not going to happen in a vacuum, right? Like if you choose one doorway and you start heading in that direction, you start talking about it, but then you find that everyone's asking about this other doorway, then you can kind of like course correct and head in that direction, and it's totally okay. So I would say that choosing a doorway that feels like people are coming to you for, or if you're new, feels like something you've really solved before and it's really specific, like start somewhere. Like when I pivoted into the niche I've been doing the last few years, I started off like knowing it was something around visibility. So I asked a lot of questions from people who were my ideal clients around what they were struggling with in visibility, and I started heading in that direction. And then it just kind of evolved into that that my people, like the one of the main things that I support people on is, yes, clarity, but really communication. Really like this fine tuning, this whole tweaking of your niche and your message and your like how you talk about like your what do you do statement, all that kind of stuff. Like that the way we as coaches put things out into the world isn't as effective as we need to in order for people to pay us. So it just ended up kind of like naturally honing in that direction. So my advice would be to allow it to.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious now about the other examples you have. If they had a similar experience, right? Like, who came to mind for this problem?
Yes. Okay. So I want to share actually someone who came to mind around, specifically around talking about what you do. So I may take it in a little bit different direction, but I think this is really, really important. Okay. So Holly, one of my clients, Holly Shaw, she is fabulous. I know you know this now too, because you've talked to her. We had a session together and we were working on how she had the conversation about her package in the actual discovery call. Like, so when it got to that point and she painted the picture of what it looked like, and I did an episode where I kind of recap some of this. So we'll link to that in the show notes as well. But so we were talking about this, and what really became clear, because she was having a lot of people who were getting, like, I want to say it was like I don't know the exact numbers right now, so if I'm wrong, forgive me, but she had like 100 consults, or maybe it was like 40, or it was some hugely large number in just a matter of weeks, like discovery calls that she did, because she spoke. She's a fabulous coach for performing artists, especially actors. And so she spoke at SAG, in Screen Actors Guild, in LA. And so she got a ton of discovery calls booked, and she ended up doing them, and she wasn't getting a lot of actual purchases. And so she was like, Adria, what is going on? Can we kind of like look at what I'm seeing and find where it could be better, or like where I'm losing them, right? And so this is super relevant to what we're talking about, because it's about how do you make your package sound? Because right, like your package is valuable, right? But how do you make it sound valuable? How do you convey that to these people, right? And so it's like looking at what your package looks like. And that's why I'm using this Holly example, because when we got down to it and we looked at it, we realized she is a hypnotherapist and she is a coach, and she has a background as an actor and as a dancer, as a performer. And so we realized that we really needed to bring these pieces, which are tools still, but we need to bring these pieces to the table and explain why they made her work so valuable. And so you probably have pieces of what you do. If you're listening or watching this, you have different tools in your toolkit. This is the time where I'm going to actually allow you to pull out your tools. Normally we don't talk about our tools, but you probably have different pieces that make you super unique, that make your process like even more powerful, that make it even more valuable, that give you this perspective, or like whatever it is. So in Holly's case, what we ended up kind of like adding in was saying like, okay, so when we work together, the reason our work together is going to be so powerful is that we're going to do a combination of hypnotherapy and coaching. So with the hypnotherapy, we can pull everything to the surface and then we can release it. Maybe it's the opposite way, but either way, like the point is that she had something really tangible and specific that set her apart. It's like, I'm not just a coach. I'm not just going to help you with stage fright and like nail your audition, like all that kind of stuff. I'm actually like, I have this extra tool in my toolkit that I'm going to pull out that's different than other coaches, because I can actually do the hypnotherapy with you. So we're going to like be able to get up stuff. And it's not just going to be like, we can do exercises, we can do coaching, we can do all this stuff, but I have a secret weapon, essentially. So it's like, what is that secret weapon for you?
Right. I was just going to ask, do you recommend people figuring out what that one thing is, or maybe one or two things?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And so actually, I haven't kind of officially announced this yet, but I'm going to be doing a standout challenge in March. And this is essentially the kind of work we're going to be doing together. It's going to be a 5-day challenge, and we are going to be pulling to the surface, like, what are these things that set you apart that then make your work feel a lot more valuable? These are the things you can apply to your packet, your coaching package. You can apply to when you're talking about what you do that, you know, that really set you apart in your industry. Because I think probably one of the number one things for making your work really feel valuable and for making clients not price shop, right? Like that you're just one of a number of people they could be hiring, like to make them want to hire you is for them to know why they need you specifically.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, especially in a industry that's so full of life coaches or health coaches or just generic titles of coaches. So how do we stand out?
Yeah.
Well, those are all my questions about how we can make people more interested in coaching packages. Is there anything else that you want to add?
Well, I want to just like point out how cool it is that we didn't really talk about what your coaching package looks like. You know, we talk like, I feel like that's a theme in a lot of the stuff that I do is that that you can figure out like what your coaching package is. I actually have an episode that you can go back to, which is how to create an offering that feels valuable, where it helps you figure out like how to start piecing this together, how to use your tools and use the problem you solve to put together what your offering is. So that's something you can use for that. But notice that like we talked pretty much about how you position it. Because that's really what makes a difference in whether it gets sold. It is important that you do good work. Like, absolutely. I want to have like thousands and thousands of coaches out there in the world who already are, but who are helping people, who are making a difference, making an impact, changing lives. Like, absolutely. But I'm betting that's not the problem. Or like, that's not the main problem, right? Like, if you had more clients, you'd probably get better at what you do too. So yeah, like, so it's interesting that this is what we're focusing on. This is like the top most important thing.
Yeah. And it's so easy to get distracted by all like the shiny bells and whistles of creating a package and your website and like what graphics you use, when really it's like you can have the most beautiful website and the greatest graphics and totally miss the mark and no one's going to pay you.
Right. So, and you could have spent $5,000. You could have spent $5,000 on that website. You could have hired a copywriter. You could have done a lot of different things, but not actually the foundation that like makes it a lot easier for them to want to pay you. Because remember, they want to hire you. They want to be sold because they want to solve the problem. So you just need to make it easy for them to say yes.
Yes. Well, thank you, Adria.
Thank you, Cher. Thank you for asking such fabulous questions.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. And for those of you who are watching or who are listening, I actually put together a quick, easy toolkit to help you to remove what I call the 3 barriers that stop ideal clients from saying yes to working with you. Because we talked a lot about communication, right? We talked a lot about positioning. And so this toolkit's going to really help you dial in these different pieces, like very specifically that we talked about today, and lock them in place. It's a quick, easy thing to do, toolkit. And if you want that, you can hop on over to adriadecourt.com/barriers to grab it. I'll put that link in the show notes. And if you're watching the video, below the video. And thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for next week where we're going to be going into the number 1 key to getting clients through speaking. And I have a guest on that I'm very excited about. For those of you who have been asking for this type of support around speaking, I brought in one of my new favorite speaking coaches who works with business owners for this. And guess what? Spoiler alert. The number 1 key that I'm talking about when I say number 1 key to getting clients through speaking is actually niching. Crazy, but true. Now that I've ruined the curiosity for you. No, it's actually a really valuable episode if you want to use the tool that I've used in my own business to grow it, and it's one of the most fabulous tools you can use in your business to get clients is speaking. So stay tuned for that, and I will say bye-bye for now for just a short time until we see each other again.